In the past, I have been telling you stories about the Israelites and their kings. Do you remember that the Jews were taken into captivity? Among them was a man with the name Ezekiel. The captives were taken to Babylon. They live as slaves by the river Kebar. Ezekiel is there already for 5 years. Then something very special happens. God speaks to him in a vision. Ezekiel looks and sees a windstorm coming out of the north. A big cloud with flashing lightning and surrounded by brilliant light. God is showing him his glory. When Ezekiel sees it, he falls face down. God says, "Son of man, stand up, and I will speak to you." The Spirit of God enters Ezekiel and raises him to his feet. Then God continues, "Son of man, I am sending you to be my messenger to the Jews who have disobeyed and rebelled against me. Whether they chose to listen or not, they will know you are my prophet. Don't be afraid of them." God knows the people. He knows you. He knows me. And God says to Ezekiel, "These people are so rebellious. It will be like living among thorns and scorpions." How merciful of the Lord that He still wants to talk and has a message for these kind of people. He says to Ezekiel, "Whether they want to listen or not, speak my words to them. Obey me and eat what I give you." Ezekiel looks. He sees a hand stretched out to him. In it is a scroll, which is unrolled before him. On both sides of it are written words of lament and mourning and woe. God says to Ezekiel, "Son of man, eat this scroll I'm giving you and fill your stomach with it. Then go and speak to the people of Israel." So Ezekiel opens his mouth, and God gives him the scroll to eat. It tastes as sweet as honey in his mouth. Can you imagine that the words of God are in you? That can also happen to you. You don't need to eat a scroll, but when you read the Bible and you keep these words in your head and in your heart, it is also that you are filled with God's words. Then God says, "Son of man, go now to the people of Israel and speak my words to them." But they are not willing to listen to you, because they are not willing to listen to me. What do you do when you hear the words of God? Then Ezekiel hears behind him a loud rumbling sound, as the glory of the Lord rises from the place where it has been standing. Then the Spirit of God lifts Ezekiel up and takes him away. Ezekiel feels overwhelmed and sad about everything that he has heard. He comes to the people who live near the river Kebar, and there, among them, he sits down for 7 days, deeply distressed. After 7 days, God speaks to Ezekiel again. "Son of man, you must speak the words of warning I give you. If I tell you to warn the wicked that they will die and you don't warn them, then you will be held responsible. But if you warn them and they do not listen, it's not your fault." Do you see God's mercy? He always comes with warnings. He wants to save our lives. He wants to save sinners. Then God says to Ezekiel, "Get up and go out to the plain. There I will speak to you." So Ezekiel gets up and goes to the plain. There he sees the glory of the Lord again. like he has seen before at the river Kabar. Ezekiel falls again face down. The Spirit of God enters Ezekiel and raises him to his feet. He is told to go and shut himself in his house. God says, "Your tongue will stick to the roof of your mouth and you will be mute. But when I speak to you, I will open your mouth and you will declare, 'This is what God says.' He who hears, let him hear. He who refuses, let him refuse." For the rest of his life, Ezekiel is a prophet warning the Jews of God's judgment on them for their disobedience. Ezekiel tells the Jews, "Repent and live." He also talks about God's covenant and about his promise to bring back the Jews to their own land. How faithful is the Lord! Let us praise his mercy